It is October 13th, 2021. This is an oral history for the Indiana Jewish Historical Society. I am Emma Maggart, EMMA-MAGGART, and I am here with
Kathy Busch, B-U-S-C-H, Kathy with a K.
Tom Busch, B-U-S-C-H.
And we're at the Lafayette Jewish Cemetery.
So, the cemetery actually was here before the temple was, because there was a cholera epidemic in 1848, and the Cemetery Association was formed to bury the victims of that. And then shortly after that, Temple Israel was formed.
1849.
In 1849.
Yeah.
And at the back of the cemetery are the graves of the earliest people who died, and it's very interesting that they were buried in the order they died rather than next
to their family.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's
that's
why
why
Barbara and Jacob were
Oh.
separated.
Okay, that makes more
Yeah,
sense now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't do that now.
Yeah.
So our
Should we go back there?
yeah, sure.
Trigger
Our
things
Kathy's
again.
family goes back to that era when Jacob Mayer was in town. He was one of the founding members for both the cemetery and the congregation, and he was the kosher butcher in Lafayette. And he had a lot of daughters who married a lot of the people whose names you see around the cemetery. So it was a close community of German immigrants.
Yes. Okay,
And this
that's
is-
Barbara.
That's Barbara, who died after Jacob.
Okay.
And Jacob was, one of the earlier people to die, and he was buried here.
And this is Jacob Mayer, M-A-Y-E-R.
Right.
1875. Yeah. And I'm not sure when, his is 75. 83. Yeah. So 8 years
1883.
later, but separated
Yes, because of chronological order. That's really interesting.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
San Nuki.
And we're at the back of the Lafayette Cemetery right now.
Very hard to read these.
Do you know what?
Fortunately, so many of the years are not.
Well, that says 80. 60. This says 60.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so these are early.
Yeah, so that's what they did. They started here and went back.
All right.
Yeah, and then came the ravine. Couldn't go back any further.
And you can see that a lot of these dates are Jewish dates,
Oh, yes.
and not, Western dates.
So the original, the early mayors were the butchers, but then it moved into the
So now we can move
Oppenheimers.
up to the Oppenheimers.
Okay, and that was the business,
Yes. Yeah.
the men's business.
So
Yes.
Levi Oppenheimer married one of Jacob Mayer's daughters.
One of the many daughters.
Yes.
Okay, so then
And that's
then
and,
the Oppenheimer
Le-
became
Levi-
a big thing.
and his brother, who I think was we'll go up.
Yeah, we'll go up and check. It's hard. It's confusing. Yeah. For me.
That's all part of the family genealogy, right?
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
marrying everybody else and name switching.
Yeah. Because back in those days, the women never kept their maiden name. They always took their husband's name.
Yeah. And you said you're a fifth generation
I'm
Oppenheimer?
fifth, aren't I? And our kids are six.
I think so.
Yeah, we think so.
Yeah. So we go from Jacob to
To Levi,
to grandmother.
to grandmother Blanche, to Ralph, to me. So I'm fifth.
All right.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
kids were 6.
And the kids were 6, because in their barn, but it's supposed to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It's unusual for this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, what's unusual is to have us all eventually ending up back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so nice to have people come back.
Yeah, yeah. I was gone for many years, but then moved back with my husband, which is 35 years ago now. Yeah, isn't it nice out here?
It really is.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike a lot of them, we're just like flat.
Yeah.
out in
And there's no
cornfields.
personality
Yeah,
to the
yeah. Everybody's got
monuments.
a different style of.
It really is a lovely cemetery.
Yeah, yeah.
So Levi,
Okay, here he
who was
is.
born in 1847 in Germany, emigrated when he was a teenager. He eventually married Rachel, who was the daughter of
The mayor.
the mayors.
Mm-hmm. That's how it goes.
And he and his brother, who I don't know if it was this Jacob, it might have been this Jacob, or it might have been Julius. I think it was Julius.
Oh, I think it was
his
Julius.
brother.
And that's the Civil War.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
the
okay.
the star.
They came over
Yeah, in 1860.
from Germany as teenagers to work in their relatives' store in Massillon, Ohio. It was kind of an apprentice thing, and when they got when they were able to, then they moved further west to Lafayette,
The Lafayette.
and they started a men's wear store called
The
the Baltimore.
Baltimore.
And
The
if you
Baltimore.
go downtown, and you can see the Baltimore still at the corner of 4th and Main.
It's got a what do you call it, frieze or something?
Cornice, whatever you
Cornice, way at the top of white terracotta.
Okay.
It's most recently with a bank, but I don't even think Salem Bank has its sign on anymore. But look way up. It's actually green, white and green, like a celadon kind of green. But that's where it was.
All right.
And
I'll
it's
look at
considered, it was dubbed, Kent Schutte dubbed it a historic monument or whatever
Yeah,
for the
of
city of
Lafayette.
Lafayette.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I'll have to drive by that.
Yeah.
So,
Right across, diagonally across from the northern part of the courthouse.
and there was still a Baltimore men's wear shop in town when we moved to town
Oh, yeah.
in 1986.
Yeah.
long
So
list.
it was
was
well
long
it was
lived.
well over 100 years
Yeah.
in business in the same location.
That was very much before Men's Warehouse and stuff, and all of this
But
changed.
Baltimore was sort of the height of fashion, I guess, in those
Oh yeah,
days.
it was expensive.
Yeah.
It was
Interest.
when men got dressed up and wore suits and
Yeah.
overcoats and all that,
Yeah.
which in '86 they kind of still did.
And,
Yeah.
and,
You
and
need quality wear.
Sure.
for close to 100 years, the courthouse square was the downtown and the place where people shopped, and many of the members of the congregation were downtown merchants in those
Yes,
days, like
a
Julius.
lot of them were,
Yeah.
not just.
Like Levi and Julius. So Levi had 3 daughters,
Rachel, yeah.
three kids. One of them is was Kathy's grandmother Blanche.
Blanche.
Yeah, this is how I connect.
Yeah.
This she's 4
That's
and
your
5.
link.
Yeah, that's my link. First one on the and that's my
And
5.
then her sister Leah, who I don't think is buried here,
For some reason, she is not, and I don't know where she's buried.
and then his son, Levi's son Jacob.
Who's over on the other side, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
who well.
No.
No, was it Jacob?
Well, I thought you said Julius, which is here.
Julius was the brother.
The original 2 brothers were Levi and Julius Oppenheimer, Oppenheimer.
I'm not sure that he was buried here because he knew. Well, he died in the 1930s, and he left his, so That's Leva's son Jacob, who also worked
Over
in the
here
store.
is Jacob.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is the brother, Julius and they were
Yes,
brothers.
and
They were brothers.
Julius was a Civil War veteran, and
Yeah.
that's why he has
The star.
The star.
the star here.
Okay.
Fought in many battles, they say.
So we Laura has it. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, he obviously fought, or he wouldn't have
Yeah,
a
he
star.
has a star right
Levi
there.
was pretty quirky.
Quirky.
While he was a member of this congregation, he also was a Christian Scientist.
Oh.
They might not.
And so was his daughter Blanche, I believe.
Wow.
And he
I
did
think that
not
was
want
common back
his children to marry.
He did not.
So Kathy's father was born in Chicago. That his father Ralph was born in Chicago.
Ralph Morris, Morris.
His father was a traveling salesman who sold clothes to to Levi's store.
Okay.
And Ralph's mother died shortly after he was born from complications of childbirth. Within a year or two, she passed away.
Yeah, when he was
Ralph got to know Blanche.
Ralph Sr.
Ralph Sr. got to know Blanche,
This would be
and we were once at a party with one of the cousins who said they eloped because father wouldn't have approved.
Didn't want marriage. Oh, interesting.
But then Ralph became part of this family, and he's the one who told us all these stories because he's devoted, to Lafayette,
Devoted, yeah.
to the family history, and to his mother who raised him. Kathy, his father died
His father died
when he was about
12.
10 or 12.
Yeah.
So Blanche and Rachel lived in that house on
Leah.
Blanche and her mother, Rachel,
Oh, okay.
and probably Leah
Oh,
too.
you're talking down by the Y.
That what they donated to the Y. And
Yeah.
it's now the
Yeah.
homeless shelter.
Okay.
Not the homeless shelter, the women's shelter.
And / cancer something or
Yeah,
other.
but it's
It's
now a
across the
place
street from the YWCA.
where people who've been abused, women who've been abused by their
Big
mates,
yellow house
live there.
with one of those ceramic pigs or something outside. That was
Yeah.
a fundraiser for the.
Yeah.
And that was donated by the Oppenheimers.
In something like 1940. Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably about the time that Blanche moved over
to
to
7th Street.
7th.
That's right.
Well, it was donated after she moved over to 7th Street,
Okay,
but she
so
moved over to
The Y
King
has
Street.
that in. I have
Yeah.
that, the exact
Okay.
date. I can tell you I have that in some literature from the Y when they had this big opening for the women's shelter.
Okay. That would be helpful.
Yeah, yeah. I can
Okay,
scan
so
it.
that's
Thank you.
so Ralph had 3 children. Kathy, who's the oldest, Betsy, who's next, and Chip, who's the youngest, and they all moved away, but we moved back later because because we were so fond of the community and we wanted to be grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
That's basically the
So,
reason.
so what questions do you have? And there's a lot more to say, but that's
Oh my goodness. So I guess you have a lot of information about the 2 brothers that
Yes.
immigrated from Germany and started that clothing
yes.
store. Do you have any other specific stories you can go into about those 2? As kind of or really like
I am trying to think. That they were also early members of the country club.
Yes.
okay.
Maybe even
Probably the only
founding
Really?
members of the country club.
Because country clubs weren't.
yeah,
so
not
big on
really
Jews.
Jews.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were German Jews. They got here
Early.
early in the development of the town, and they were
integrated well
into the community.
Yeah.
Blanche and Kathy's mother and Kathy are all members of what's called the Pickwick Club, which was founded in the 19th century by
1880s.
by Blanche and her friends. And they took the name from Little Women. Where there was a Pickwick Club, and they each month, there was a party, a tea party, a meeting with a presentation of some kind, and
a luncheon.
Oh, how nice.
And we still do that, except now it's COVID, so we've been meeting by Zoom. But it supposedly was community, women who were community leaders, well entrenched in the community. And it actually started out as a, like, they gave book reviews. It was a very literate.
Very literature club.
Literate. But it's disintegrating. I shouldn't say that. It's changed, and we're not nearly as formal, and we don't. Sometimes somebody reads a book and talks about it, but they didn't have book clubs back in the, when it started. So we do things like whatever, could be anything from flower arrangements to, well, here's my vacation to Turkey kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But it's
very
fun.
interesting social engagements.
It's quite fun.
Yeah. And is this just Jewish women?
No.
Or it's anyone from the community?
It's anyone.
Okay.
Yeah. And I still am the only Jew in it.
Oh, wow.
35, the max of 35 women.
But when your mother was alive, there were 2 of you.
That's right. My mother's alive, there were 2 of us. Yeah, usually legacies just are shoe-ins.
Okay.
But not that many kids live in the same town with their mothers anymore. So,
unfortunately.
That's sort of
So several of the
sad.
other members are legacies as
Several,
well.
but not too many, really. Not, I mean,
The
1%.
Andrew family,
Andrew family,
who owned
that's it.
the Fowler, who lived in the Fowler house,
Right.
are still in town here, and their kids must be 5th generation
Probably.
or 6th.
5th or 6th, like ours, The kids will be about 6.
So
I don't know. We really don't have a lot of information on the. When you said he was supposed to be quirky, grandmother was quirky too.
Yeah.
And grandmother lived till 103. Ripe old age.
Yes.
So one of her friends was Eleanor Brockenbraw. Can you spell it?
Oh God, I'll have to. I don't want to spell
I think it's something like
incorrectly. I've got it.
BRACHEN.
You can Google it. She was an artist.
Okay.
Eleanor Brockenbraw. BROUGH. I think is the
And
end.
Blanche, when I came to town, first told me a story. I think it was about her, that she was the Eleanor was dating one of the Studebakers from South Bend, and that it didn't last, but they were quite seriously,
But that's not this family.
associated. That's not this family.
It's
It's not Jewish, but
No, not Jewish.
it gives you a kind of a picture of what society was like in those years.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That first of all, the people from South Bend and people from Lafayette would connect, and secondly, that the people in the German Jewish community were connected in with the
Non-Jewish.
upper
Yeah.
crust in town.
Right.
Yeah.
They were. It was very important to integrate.
And,
Right.
and,
Assimilate.
and when the Eastern European Jews came over beginning in 1881, but accelerating in the 90s, and especially in the first
03, 05,
first part of the
19,
century,
Yeah.
they didn't get along with the German Jews.
Animosity.
As in fact,
Interesting.
the Irish Catholic didn't get along with the German Catholic.
Yeah.
It was
It was a tiered thing,
people were
Yeah.
The
very
Germans
much
looked down.
noticed with their identity, and so.
The German Jews had done a great job of, if you want to call it right, they had assimilated, and Eastern European Jews didn't particularly want to assimilate.
Yeah.
They wanted to
That's-
maintain
Remain
their
culture that they brought.
cultural,
Separate Jewish
separate,
culture.
You know, keep the kosher butchers, all that stuff. Yeah. So you can see why there was a schism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that wasn't just here. That was
Just
all
everywhere.
Everywhere.
But we can see it in this community
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a microcosm of what was
Yeah.
happening.
Absolutely.
The Baltimore store is 3 stories tall, and they had menswear on all 3 stories back in the day.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was huge. Yeah.
And
Men wore hats. They had
Yeah,
canes.
had all
it was
the-
very,
and this was the
upscale.
center where everybody bought their go to church clothes.
Yeah.
In Lafayette, and shopped for things that probably shopped for everything,
Yeah.
because there probably weren't a lot of stores in the surrounding communities.
Oh, I'm sure not.
Yeah.
Attica, Delphi.
But there were in those days
No.
Jewish communities in Attica, Logansport, Delphi.
There were some cousins.
Yes,
'cause
cousins
Ralph had
lived there,
cousins
yeah.
in Logansport, but they would come in and shop here.
Their father owned the newspaper in Logansport.
The twins.
Yes.
Greensfelders,
The
yeah.
Greensfelder
Yeah.
twins. Ralph had arranged a big reunion, probably in the 50s, maybe in the 60s, of all of the cousins who are descended from Jacob Mayer and his children and the other people who were early relatives in the community. We visited one of his cousins in New York when we were Marion Goodwill. Cousin Marion was Ralph's cousin.
True. Okay. You're right. I was thinking that was the other side, but you're right.
I think she was a Dreyfus.
She was Marion Dreyfus Goodwill. Okay.
Yeah,
and there are
Dreyfus.
Dreyfuses. There's born Dreyfus right there in the mausoleum.
Dreyfus.
Oh, okay,
One of the things the Dreyfuses owned.
Have you ever seen those?
Let's
walk over.
Yeah,
and
I'd
look.
love to see it.
Yeah, let's walk over and look. You can peek in. There's you can't get in. It's locked.
Yeah.
But it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, the Dreyfuses owned theater in town back at the turn of the century. I think they called it an opera house.
Right.
Is that the theater that is still down there?
No,
or is
it burned down.
Oh. Okay, so now we're walking to the Born Dreyfus Mausoleum.
No, I'm not sure. It's because it's such a cloudy day. Well, yeah, you can peek
You
in.
use your light, your
Well, I don't think the
Flashlight on your
phone. I don't think of, but
Oh, yeah.
they're like drawers sort of
Mm-hmm.
on each side,
Yeah.
and then on the back of it is pretty cool as well. See it, kind of. Yeah. The one on the other side. That's on. I think they put some plexi over it or something. But it's prettier in the daytime, and when there's sun out, you can
yeah.
see.
That's some,
It's kind of.
it's like a stained
You wanna
glass
try
on the back
shining
window.
your flashlight in there? And probably in the front door.
Why don't you
Yeah.
do it with
Well, I
your,
don't have my phone.
I can try it. I think it'll keep recording.
and now you know where all this is. You could come back.
Yes. And we're looking at the Dreyfus Mausoleum, as the Dreyfus family was cousins of the Oppenheimer family.
Yeah, you can
Oh,
see
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just in a
Now,
drawer-like.
in Europe, they do these all the time. Still, they build them into hills, and they have
Right.
like smaller drawers, and they just stick people in the drawer.
one after the other.
Yeah, it's pretty good use of space.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
There's
mess up the.
2 other mausoleums there, and
Yeah.
then the one in the back is actually a
tool shed.
tool
we use
shed.
it for,
Yeah.
grass seed. But that one over there on the right has been, we can look over there. That has that for months and months and months. Lafayette versus
It's
Seders.
Seders.
Okay. Looks
And-
like
and
Seder, but
her
it's
father was Henry Rosenthal, who ran the radio station and maybe even the TV station early on.
Yeah.
And his father, I think, ran for mayor and didn't get elected. But they've been around since the 19th century. Kathy's father and Deb's father were playing football with each other and the country club grounds. And Kathy's father hurt his leg, and for the next 80 years he threatened to sue.
Oh, they were kidding.
Of course they were kidding.
Oh, a long-running
It wasn't
joke.
his leg, it was his shoulder, but okay.
No, the shoulder was when
Oh,
we
the
were going
shoulder
up to
was
college.
tipped. Yeah, that's right. That was the football throw for Chip. Okay, so I think that
So we I guess we're old people with our own oral history.
sure.
Yeah.
We met in New York. I was, at the time in law school, and Kathy had just moved to New York as an artist to work in her studio, and we were introduced by my cousin, who was Kathy's landlady. And she played hard to get. Eventually, we loved talking to each other on the telephone, for weeks before we even met.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and then we had we lived we had a child about Jonah about 10 months after we got married. And when we married, we moved to an apartment in Park Slope in Brooklyn, which was gentrifying at that time, but not gentrified. And then we moved out further into Brooklyn with our son Jonah, and then we had a daughter Kira in Brooklyn. In Sheepshead Bay, and then we moved to Croton on Hudson, New York, and we had a daughter, Lael, in Croton, Hudson, New York.
Yeah.
And then we knew we'd have to move to a bigger house.
Yeah, every time
and
I
we
met
need
Kira,
more,
Expanding
we
family.
need more help, and we really liked this community, and we liked the network we had here, and we especially liked having grandparents here.
Well, and then there was the Fred. There was an opening that was perfect. for him.
Kathy's father's
He was
lawyer,
a lawyer at that time, and now he's a judge.
and very good
Decided-
friend. Offered me a job.
Yeah.
And so
The
that,
timing lined up.
Timing was good. Yeah.